Hello, everybody. I can't see you, but I'm hoping that you can see me. We did a test, so I think everything is in good order. And I'm just going to go ahead and get started. Um, Hope you guys are having a great time so far at JiraCon. I saw the keynote this morning, and the production value of that opening salvo was fantastic. I don't think that you're going to get the same level of production value out of this talk, but hopefully you'll get some value out of it. So let's go ahead and jump in. First of all, I'm Chad Gallant. I'm the founder of E3 Advisory Services. E3 is empower, enable, engage. And it is my mantra. It is the attributes that I believe have to be true for leaders to engage with their organizations to drive value to the customers. But this is actually going to not talk a lot about the enterprise and the business and the work, but it's going to talk about how I've applied some of these concepts to my family. And so this is our vision statement for E3, a sustainable world where the value of each enterprise is measured by the collective expressed value of its people. That's really important to me. We heard in the keynote this morning about sustainability across the board, and we want to make sure that we've got an environment where people are the ones who are delivering the value, and the enterprises can interact with those people and unleash their collective genius. So that's what our vision's all about here. So as I've been in this field, in the agility kind of field for a little over a decade now. And before that, I was in the military. I retired from the Air Force after 21 years, but all through my career, I had been in an agile environment. I just didn't know it until I heard the term agile after I retired from the military. So it really resonated with me. It really made a lot of sense. And I've applied those concepts as I've gone through the world and seen different things. But what I want to talk about today is my family. This is how we approach living as a family for now, and I'll talk a little bit about how we got to this point. But these are generally the things that I want to talk about: the tipping point, the team, how we built a roadmap and a backlog, and then talking about the process and the sprint, and really the benefits that I get from applying some of these principles to keeping my family engaged and working as a team. So the tipping point, we bought a bus. I didn't put the pandemic on here. I was hoping I could avoid that conversation altogether. But at the beginning of the pandemic, I was working from home, as everybody was. And I thought, if I can work from home, I can make my home anywhere. And so we decided that we were going to buy a school bus and convert it to an RV. And in the process of doing that, that added a little bit of stress. And then we wanted to see if we could prepare the house and get it ready to sell. So there was a lot of work to be done around the house. And my kids were getting married. My oldest daughter was getting married, and we have 10 pets between all of us. We have 5 dogs, 3 cats, a bearded dragon, and a snake. So that in itself, we got a mini zoo in the house. And after my daughter got married, they were living in St. Louis. I live across the river in Illinois. And after they got married, we decided, since we're getting the bus ready to go, we don't know whether or not we want to sell the house. So we decided to go ahead and combine households. So now we're all living here together, 5 adults, 10 pets. And this is me trying to manage my anxiety as all of these things started to manifest. And I thought, man, we really need a way to figure out how to get organized and how to make this as unstressful as we possibly can, for lack of a better term. And I have a very limited set of skills, a very particular set of skills, and this is certainly one of them. So I thought, why don't we try implementing some version of Scrum for the family? And I was a little bit concerned about how well people would take it, but one important thing to note is that to a person, each one of my family members, myself included, is neurodivergent in some way, shape, or form. I have, I don't know, you could term it as a mild case of ADHD. I think depending on the day, it might be a little bit more extreme than other days. But every single one of my family members has some kind of neurodivergence. And so dealing with that, as well as dealing with all of the things that were happening in our lives simultaneously, we really needed a way to prioritize and to lower the anxiety. So we decided to try this Scrum thing out, and it was incremental, it was iterative, but it took a little bit of time to get to the point where we were just kind of clicking. So as with all good Agile teams, we wanted to make sure that we had the pieces in place. So we don't really talk about these roles. They're kind of distributed across the family, but we do have a product manager, and that is definitely my wife. She owns the roadmap. And nobody gets to, we all get input to the roadmap, but she's the one that sets the priority. The product owner, I'm the one who goes in the backlog and massages it and makes sure that we're doing the right next thing, or what I think is the right next thing. My daughter, JoJo, who you see in the middle here, is the Scrum Master for the team. This is my wife up here, a very artistic person. Her job right now is building the bus, building our future. This is me over here. I love kayaking. I love being on the water. And I told you about JoJo. Down here, this is Vinny and Joe. This is my daughter in the background and Joe in the foreground. Both very artistic people. Joe is a full-time student at Webster University, and Vinny is an artist. She's a multimedia artist. She does anything from painting to sculpting to social media. And then there's the whole family there in the bottom right and the bottom left. So you can see we've got all kinds of talents that we bring to the table. It's very cross-functional. Joe is really good working with his hands. So is Cheyenne. Again, JoJo and Vinny are very artistic. So we had the team in place, and we just wanted to make sure that we were doing the right things. And so this is what we did. We have our vision, and the vision is for us, it's all of us really want to be nomads. We all want to get on the road and go travel, go explore, have adventures. So that was kind of the vision, is how do we get from where we are today to a place where we can just travel at a moment's notice. We can just be where we want to be, when we want to be there. And in order to do that, we created a series of epics in the roadmap. And you can see here, there's a whole bunch of different epics, and we're going to do a demo at the end of this where I'll kind of walk you through how I'm leveraging Jira to manage this backlog, to manage the roadmap. But you see, we've got every room has an epic, the shed, the exterior, the patio, and then each of us in the house, me and JoJo and Shai and Vinny and Joe, all have our own epics where we can think about what we want to do to improve fitness or journaling or anything that we might want to do. Like JoJo is auditioning for a haunted house today, and that's in our backlog as well. So that's kind of how we manage the roadmap, is we've broken down all of our work into these epics. And then we've got the backlog. So you can see here, we're fairly disciplined. Every story has an epic attached. We actually do story pointing. We've got child issues. Here's just a snippet of some of the things that we were doing: cleaning up the art studio, buying a new stove, buying a solar kit for the bus, test driving the bus. Those are the types of things that we have in the backlog. And so here's the process. What we do is once a week, on Wednesday evening, we all make time to sit around the living room and have our weekly meeting. And we start out by celebrating success. So we go around the family and we all just take our turn celebrating success. The rules are that we have to talk about what we're proud of from each other and how we made ourselves proud, what we did that we're proud of. And that really helps to kind of give us some sense of accomplishment in a perpetual manner. We're always focused on celebrating success. That's what I love. That's one of the things that I love the most about Scrum, is that you've got that dedicated time in place where you can celebrate success. Then we reflect on our goals and what we achieved, what we missed. We talk about why we missed stuff. And then we set about prioritizing the backlog. Anything new that you guys want to do in our sprints are a week long. So anything that you want to do in this upcoming week, anything you have on your plate that might affect our ability to achieve other goals that we have. We have a pull model versus a push model. We expose all of the things that need to be done around the house and outside the house, and all of the things that all the adventures that we're going on. And we want to make sure that everything's visible so that we can all see what everybody's doing. We don't want to overload anybody. We want everybody to have the right balance, right? And then we do the estimates. And this is funny to me. I talk to a lot of teams in my day-to-day job, and they talk about how challenging it is to do story point estimation. But my family caught on really, really quick. And it's never been about time. It's never been about really business value. It's all been about what can we handle in a given iteration, and what does this iteration look like today? So you'll see how that plays out. Then we get into the tasks, and the task is a lot of fun. One of the things that we struggled with, well, I struggled with especially, is after a long day at work, or even a short day at work, going from my office downstairs to the living area upstairs, I immediately got this sense of dread about what's for dinner. And it caused so much anxiety every single day. So one of the first things that we did was put meal planning into our sprints, so that during our weekly meeting, one of the things that we do is we say, okay, who's cooking on Monday? Who's doing the dishes? Who's cooking on Tuesday? Who's doing the dishes? And you'll see a little bit of that. So we go through the tasks, other things might have tasks, and then we do a 5 to 5 commitment. And any of you who have been on Agile teams, or you may have seen this 5 to 5, but for those of you who haven't, it's basically, how confident are we that we're going to get all of the things done that we said we were going to do? How confident are we that we're going to achieve our goals? And so a 0 is I'm not at all confident, and a 5 is I'm supremely confident. So we do that every week. And then every week we do a family activity. So last night was our family meeting, and my daughter bought a Goonies board game. And so we set it up. We totally planned on playing this game, and we tried for about an hour to figure out the rules, and it's a lot. So we decided, you know what, we're not going to do that. Dad's going to go and make sure that he polishes up his presentation for tomorrow instead. So that's what I did. But that's the process. That's what we go through. And it takes about an hour and a half every week just to get through all of this stuff. So if you think about it, we've got our sprint review, we've got our sprint retro, and we've got our sprint planning all in that same time frame. So that works out pretty well. And this is what the sprint does for us. It allows us to track our progress toward the goal, just like you would do on a delivery team, right? So tracking progress toward the goal. Everybody has the app on their phone, so they're able to see what's next and what can people use help with. It's got built-in accountability, so we know, if I say that I'm going to do something, that's my thing. I own it, and I don't necessarily have to do it myself, but I own getting that done. So pulling in other family members to help out with things. Swarming and pairing is always a thing that we do whenever there's an item in the sprint where we just can't do it on our own. We'll pull other people in, we'll swarm, we'll pair. We had a really cool thing. We put rearranged the living room in one of our previous sprints, and we said, okay, we're going to swarm on Saturday morning. So Saturday morning, everybody gets up, does their morning stuff, gets ready, relaxes. And then we said, all right, let's get to it. And I'll tell you, it was so much fun to be a part of, and so much fun to watch everybody just working together. Pretty big living room. We moved a couch all around. We moved a TV from one wall and put it on another wall. It was just really cool. And then adventure is a non-negotiable. We always want to make sure that we're focusing on adventure. And when I'm talking to teams about what a sprint should look like, I talk about it in terms of You should always be thinking about what you're building, what you're innovating, and what you're learning. That should be a part and parcel for every sprint. If you're working in Scrum, you've got that opportunity to be intentional about innovation, to be intentional about learning. And for us, I translate that to be intentional about adventure. For us, it's a lot about finding that balance. Be not a work-life balance, but just a general balance, a holistic way to live. And then failure is an option. This is one of the things, when you're dealing with neurodivergence, especially some things like depression and anxiety, a lot of times that failure feels really bad. And we want to make sure that that we express that it's okay to miss a goal. It's okay to not get something done. As long as we're focused on the vision, as long as we're moving in the right direction, as long as we're making progress, we should be proud of ourselves. And we have an opportunity to really focus in on the things that we have accomplished, and that kind of minimizes the effect of failing to accomplish some of those goals. So what are the benefits? Really, it unleashes the creative genius of the family. I mean, there's been you see the office that I'm living in, it didn't look like this a year ago. It just started, it started coming together. The rest of the house, we've got a pretty big house with a lot of rooms, and every single room by room, has really transformed over the course of the past 6 or 8 months. So that's really cool because the whole family is very creative. I talked a lot about the neurodivergence. That really helps. We believe that family dynamics are team dynamics. When we operate as a team, we all really do better, and we all appreciate and can empathize better with each other. Talked about the balance. And talked about it, and this is really minimizes a lot of difficult conversations, right? I know that my oldest daughter was really anxious about who was doing the dishes. Like I was anxious about who's going to cook or what are we going to have for dinner. That level of anxiety really comes down when you present that to the whole team, to the whole family, and you let them know, here are the things that we have to do, who wants to do what. It really minimizes those difficult conversations, and you can focus on whether they're problems versus who is causing problems. And then the progress. You'll see in a little bit how much we've gotten accomplished, but that progress has been fantastic. And I do have a question here. Does your family do any kind of change management when it comes to building and or project management? So I'm trying to understand that question. If you can clarify. So what I'm reading there is what is the change management construct that comes along with building things or managing our projects. And we really don't look at this as project management. We just look at this as goal management, right? It's more of a goal management thing. So the change management is kind of part and parcel with what we're doing. And I think that if we had to point to a change manager or the change managers on the team, it's probably myself and my daughter JoJo, who serves as our Scrum Master. We're really the ones that are talking about the benefits of the way that we're doing things. But then what I've seen over the past couple of months is that my Vinny and JoJo and my wife Shai have been talking in terms of, ooh, that should go in the next sprint. We should think about that in a future sprint, or we should put that on the backlog, or we should add that to the roadmap. So it's kind of organic, the change management that's happened over the course of while we've been doing this. So that's been really neat to see. It's so validating when you hear your family getting excited about, oh man, I really should put that in the backlog, or that's a roadmap item, like starting a diary. So that's pretty cool. So that's really it for the presentation portion. But now I'm going to stop the share for just a minute and switch to demo mode. And I'm actually going to show you how we leverage Jira to do this. But here's an example of a sprint that was in progress. So you see, we're by no means are we perfect. We're far from it, but you'll see here what we actually do. Starting like any Scrum Master worth their salt with the visibility? What do we want to focus on? And the first thing that I want to focus on is, again, celebrating success. So these are all the things that we have done over the course of our team project, which has been somewhere in the neighborhood of 6 or 7 months now. We've been actually using Jira. We started doing some version of this just vocally, who wants to do what this week. We tried doing a Kanban board with sticky notes, and that got out of control really quick. So we decided to switch to Jira because I already had a license for it for my business. So I thought, let's just invite the family and call it good. So this is what done looks like. And I have that listed out by assignees so that each one of us can see that we are contributing. Each of us is contributing to the overall success of the family. And you can kind of see here, distribution is pretty decent. And same thing with, this is just the big things. Those are, when I talked about the roadmap, every one of those epics on the roadmap is what we consider a big thing. And you see, again, we've got some distribution of ownership. And I think that's really important to make sure that that it's not just one person that's deciding what the roadmap looks like or what we should do next. We're all owners in this endeavor. And so then we've got the small things, which are the user stories. And you can see that distribution of that is pretty decent too. We've got a couple of issues that are not assigned, not a big deal, but that incorporates the entirety of the backlog. Story status here, all the stuff we've got done, all the stuff in progress. And then we have 51 items in the backlog. So if you're familiar with Little's law, I'm going to see if I can summarize Little's law. It's a queuing theory that says your average processing time is your single unit processing time times the number of units then divided by something. I totally screwed that up. But basically what it says is if we have 51 items in the backlog and we're doing, let's say 10 items per sprint, then it'll take us 5 sprints to get to the end of the backlog. The backlog's always growing, but that's kind of what we're looking at. So when I look at the backlog, it seems overwhelming until you kind of apply some of those principles. And so I get to talk to my family about these things, and it really helps me to create correlations and corollaries to my work environment. Also, I see all of these dynamics playing out in my family, and they're very similar to the dynamics that play out at the team level. There's another question here. Did you directly jump to Jira with the family, or did you learn with something like a Trello or maybe something else? Yeah, that's a great question. We have tried to use Trello in the past, but it really didn't take off, but we jumped to Jira after finding that our paper version of Kanban wasn't working really well. So when Vinny and Joe got married, we set up I had a flip chart that we had up, and then we had different categories, different swim lanes, and then all of the different stickies for what needed to be done to prepare for the wedding, which we had at the house. And so we didn't, that went well for the wedding, and then we tried to continue to use it, but it just kept growing and growing and growing. There were stickies on stickies and everything, and we're like, this isn't going to work. So we switched to Jira, and it really took off. Thanks for that question. So back to the dashboard. We name our sprints just randomly. Jump scare is based on the fact that my daughter's auditioning for a haunted house. So she might be a jump scare person, and that's literally how much thought we put into naming our sprints. You'll see here that we've got resolution time, which my family doesn't care about most of this stuff. This is just me geeking out here. So our average resolution time is anywhere between 4 and 10 days, but it's around about the 6-day mark, which is about the course of a sprint or a little bit more. And then created versus resolved. If you guys are familiar with any of these metrics, you can see what this means. The green means that we're resolving things, and the red means that we're creating things, and we're creating more than we resolve. But overall, you see where those peaks and valleys are. with our resolution. So that's the dashboard. And now I'm just going to take you right into the real project. And again, I'll show you the backlog. So you can see here, these are all the epics. And I spend a little bit of time managing these epics and moving them around based on what I think is the biggest priority at a given time. Obviously, with the product manager's input, and the bus is always top of mind. So that's always right on top. The garage is getting a little bit out of control. So we need to probably focus a little bit more on that. Adventure right there toward the top, and so on and so forth. The Fortress of Solitude is my office. But if you go into here, and I want to show you, the food epic. So we do meal prep every week. And this is probably our current meal prep story. So you can see here, we've got tonight is GFY, and before you make assumptions, it's go feed yourself, GFY. And then we've got soup du jour, and this is our Scrum Master typing soup du jour in the phonetic way, not because she doesn't know how to spell it, because she chooses to spell it wrong, and so on and so forth. And then when you go into a given subtask for food, you see in the description at me. So I'm doing dishes on Friday. That's how I know I'm doing dishes. So those are just basic table stakes stuff. And you can see that we don't get too detailed about what the user stories are. So I'll show you our current sprint. We've got clean fridge out. That's pretty simple. Clean JoJo's room, so we don't have very much detail in there. Meal prep has subtasks, and sometimes we'll put a little additional detail in there. And then this is, I'll show you, I always get excited about showing the metrics, right? So this is our last sprint. And this is to kind of show you we're not any better than a delivery team, and a lot of delivery teams are a lot better than we are, but we do move things. We do get things done. We have scope changes. We've got lawyer visits that impacted the sprint, and therefore we weren't able to landscape the corner garden. But we know that kind of stuff, right? We talk about that in our review, that because this happened, we weren't able to do that. Okay, how do we avoid that next time? Or was it a big deal? I really don't care. So those types of things, but this really helps us to have the right conversations. And then we really get to spend a lot of time. This is one sprint: a job interview, adventures. We did a wedding. We put the Jeep back together. I used the treadmill, which I've been trying to get myself to do for a long time. Joe made an office, and you can see all of this stuff is connected, and it's great. So that's that. And then velocity report. This is where we get hung up every week. We're like, okay, we need to really try to stick with somewhere in the neighborhood of 35 points. And we're like, okay, so we get to 35 points, and we're like, oh crap, we forgot about this, we forgot about that, we forgot about the other thing, and oh man, we didn't do meal prep. So then we add all that stuff, and we end up with 50, 70 points in a sprint. But it's okay. It's really okay. We're not mad about it. We know that we're ambitious with our goals, and if we're completing on average 50 to 60% of our goals, I think we're doing all right. We're making forward progress. And let's see, what else did I want to show you? That might be about it. And well, how are we doing on time here? I do want to go back to the presentation. There we go.
I think we're good till 3:45.
Okay, great. So we'll have plenty of time for Q&A. But I do want to get back to the presentation. So I'm going to share my screen. Oh, that's really all I had left for the presentation, was just the questions. So I'm going to switch over to I'm going to stop my share. I'm going to switch over to the chat function and see if there are any questions in the main room. We got people have been making fun of me for running my life off Jira for years, and now I feel so much better. Yeah, I've talked to a lot of people about this method of work, and some people immediately think that I'm crazy. And there's a little bit of that, there's a little bit of that for sure. There's a little bit of how much of my work am I bringing home with me, and how much am I trying to force my family into my style of work, and that always concerns me. I'm always cognizant of that. And so I try to check in with the family. Is this still okay? Is this too much? Is this are we getting too deep into it? And they continue to reassure me that we're not. I don't know if it's just to appease me or what, but it's worked out really well. I will share. Well, I won't. You already saw all the stuff that's been done. We've got a whole bunch of stuff that we've accomplished across the whole house, and a lot of adventures. We went to Mexico. We're building the bus. We've done weddings. We've been to kayaking and camping, and all kinds of stuff. And we get to take credit for those adventures as well. Do we open bugs sometimes? We haven't yet. We haven't yet opened a bug, but we do spikes. We do have spikes, and I make sure that we're clear that a spike isn't adding any value to the family. You can go do all the research you want, but you're not going to get credit for adding value to the family if you're just doing some research. I say that a little bit tongue in cheek, but it's kind of cool too, because one of the things that I love about this is that JoJo is she's my business manager. She helps me run the business, and I'm trying to mentor her as to how I engage with teams, anywhere from leadership teams, delivery teams, enablement teams. I'm a huge proponent of team success. So getting her involved in helping to manage the family in this way really helps her to understand these concepts. And these concepts are a lot more universal than people think about. And that's one of the things that I love so much about Scrum and about agility, is that when you look at the values and principles in the Agile Manifesto, if you take out the word software and put in the word working solutions or goals or whatever you want to put in there, it's really more ubiquitous than we would think at first blush. Is playing piano part of your board? Moving the piano was part of the board, but playing the piano is not part of the board. It just sits here for when I'm in between meetings and I need to get some creative juices flowing. How has this changed the way your family makes decisions? You might have a story like redecorate a room. So how do you do the design sprint? If we do redecorate a room, then typically that'll happen as part of that story. So if it's reorganize the living room, we'll sit in the living room and think about, okay, we should probably put this here and that there and move this here. And then we go do it. And it's much more XP than it is design sprint. So we'll move all of the furniture around, and then Cheyenne, my wife, will look at it and say, no, I don't think so. And then we'll just do the rework. But there are things like my wife was looking for a new phone. So we did put a spike in that says research phones. And then once that spike was over, then in the next sprint, buy the phone. So we do spikes in that manner, but we don't typically do design sprints. We do end-to-end goals, and I try to keep them away from, they have spoken in the past about, well, we can do these things to prepare for this and then do the thing. And I go back to my fundamentals and say, let's try to avoid that at all costs. Let's try to just figure out what it takes to get the small part of it done. So I'll use the bus as an example, right? There's when you're building a bus, it's a very micro version of building a house. So there are some foundational things that you need. We needed to take all of the ceiling and floors out. The chairs and the seats were already out of the bus. But then when we got the foundation set, the basic infrastructure, right, we didn't do the plumbing. We just laid the flooring, and we did some work around the frame of the bus. And then we started dividing it by room. And then within the room, we might have had like do the bedside tables inside the bedroom, work on the bathroom, inside the bathroom, put up the sink, put up the, the vanity, put up do the plumbing, that kind of stuff. So we try to break it down as much as we can. It's a good question. And to answer the first question, how has this changed the way your family makes decisions? I'm telling you, it's night and day. It is night and day. Like there was a lot of anxiety about, we have this stuff going on, so we're going to focus on the stuff that we want to do and focus less on the stuff that we have to do. So that was one of the things that was kind of driving my wife and I crazy, is that we're trying to manage this house, get it ready to sell, which we're not doing anymore, by the way, but also building out the bus in the meantime, and things weren't happening at a pace that we were comfortable with. So we've felt a lot of discomfort in the house. But once we started managing this work and visualizing the work that needed to be done, it really engaged the rest of the family to say, oh, we really all need to help out with this. We really all need to contribute to the success of the entire family. And our success is their success is our success. So it has drastically changed the way that we make decisions. I will. I did have one more slide that's got our website on it, which is a work in progress. It's a working website, work in progress. So bear with me if you see things that you're like, I wouldn't have done that. We're still working it out. But you can contact me at cgallant@e3delivers.com, reach me through my website. And I would love to have any conversations with you, or anything that's high performing team related, Agile related, any of those types of things. All right, well, if there's no other questions, and I want to make sure that you guys have time to go into the lobby and hang out and see the exhibition hall. If you're looking for something to do next, I would highly recommend this one right here, Tips and Tricks You May Not Know in Jira Service Management by Kristen Riddle. Kristen is one of the biggest superstars I've ever met in my life, and I say that with zero sarcasm. She's just a fantastic person. Anybody at Trundle knows what I'm talking about, but she's an amazing person and an amazing friend. So go see what she has to say. And any of these, I'm sure any of these would be great, but not as good as Kristen's. Thank you so much for your time, everybody. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to check out my presentation. Bye-bye.